shows that infant mortality in the country is at its lowest level it has been in almost 20 years. The IRR released this report in May, stating that infant mortality in the country fell from 48.1 per 1,000 live births to 38.2 per 1,000 live births between 2002 and 2017. Well, Stasha Jordan is the Executive Director at the South African Breastmilk Reserve, and she joins us now on the desk. Good afternoon, Stasha. Welcome to the SABC News Channel. Always a pleasure having you with us.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us.
Stasha, some staggering stats at this point. 15 million premature births globally. 1 million of these babies perish, unfortunately. 3/4 of which of these deaths can be prevented, though.
Absolutely, and we also must remember that this statistics is part of the mortality rate in the under 5 population, and it is like the largest part of the mortality rate. There are interventions like breastfeeding that can support the premature babies in the early days that are essential to survival, and the cooperation of mummies that need to breastfeed is essential to this end.
Tell us why breast milk is so crucial and so life-saving when it comes to preterm babies.
Well, much as it is for full-term babies, breast milk is crucial because it offers immunity first and foremost to the child. That goes for preterm infants as well as full-term infants. And then there is all the nutrients and the macro and the micronutrients in the breast milk that are tailor-made for this baby. And there are also anti-inflammatory. So for these very, very low birth weight, high-risk babies, accessing mother's own milk is absolutely essential.
How are we doing in terms of raising awareness and conscientizing new mothers on the benefits of exclusive breastfeeding at this juncture in the country? There's a huge drive by the Department of Health, with the Minister declaring South Africa a breastfeeding nation.
Indeed. What we must remember is that the health system cannot breastfeed our children.
Of course, yes.
And in fact, you know, on this World Prematurity Day, I think it's really important for us as a nation to remember that when a healthcare professional or when your doctor asks you to breastfeed, he or she is doing so in the best interest of the survival of your baby. So it is really essential that we cooperate, that mummies do their utmost best to express breast milk for these babies, and often these babies are unable to suckle at the breast. They're nasogastrically fed. There are a number of complications that are associated with prematurity that can be part of lifelong conditions affecting this child in the future. So it is really essential that we cooperate with the health system and that we in fact lend ourselves to breastfeeding in this time, because it is not a nice to have, it's a must-have. Breastfeeding in the context of prematurity is not an option.
I think all mums would want to do what's very best for their child when it comes to his or her long-term well-being and health. But many of our mothers, because of socioeconomic circumstances, have to return to work to make ends meet. How enabling are South Africa's work environments when it comes to breastfeeding mothers at this juncture, Stasha?
Well, I'm not sure I can speak for the nation at large. I know that there is a large movement to normalize breastfeeding in the workplace, to support mothers through education, to answer your questions about educating women. Often mummies don't know they need to be present by the bedside and will return even in prematurity to work so that they can be at home later on when the baby comes home. And it's really important to remember in the context of prematurity that going back to work is for later, that when the baby is in the neonatal intensive care unit, the baby needs mommy to be there and to breastfeed. So, you know, I think the workplace is becoming increasingly enabling in supporting mothers. But the question is breastfeeding, and this is a lifelong question, really economically feasible? We do oversell the idea that it's freely available when the time of a woman is not freely available. As you say, a lot of us who do work, we do have to return to work to support our children. So it is we are between a rock and a hard place, so to speak.
What are some of the barriers to exclusive breastfeeding, do you feel, at this point, Stasha?
Well, you know, there are, first and foremost, you know, the health status of our population is precarious at large. We have a large number of women that are living with HIV. This is not by no way an impediment to breastfeeding, but often is indicative of the health of the population at large. And mummies are very sick often. you know, what you see in the hospital is a struggling mother population. Also, our maternal mortality rates are quite high still. Yes, it is. There is a lot more we can do to support breastfeeding women, but breastfeeding women need to empower themselves and support themselves and their children.
And that's just it, Stasha. It's going to take women themselves finding their voice to approach their employers and say, this is what we need at this juncture. I myself am a mother of a 15-year-old who was born premature, and right here in the newsroom, fortunately for me, I had an understanding, conscientized news editor who allowed me to bring my infant into the newsroom and breastfeed in a video editing suite, which wasn't exactly kitted out for breastfeeding at that point, but I had no choice. That was 15 years ago. Things have changed. We want to see progress, but it's about women vocalizing the need, their needs at that juncture when you have a baby, and coming back into the newsroom or the workplace for that matter.
Yes, and the workplace must support breastfeeding women. You know, it's essential to the health and well-being of the household at large.
Yes.
And through supporting breastfeeding mothers, we also improve the health of their children. So mummies won't miss as many days of work because of snotty noses and coughs and so on. But indeed, women must empower themselves. We must speak up for our rights. We must also be conscientious. We must save. We must prepare for family planning, for becoming mothers. And we must embrace this role together with our workplaces, which I have to say, now, as you said, back in 15 years ago, we did not have breastfeeding rooms. A lot of places of work are establishing feeding facilities or expressing facilities for mothers. So there are options today.
Stasha Jordan, thank you so much for sharing your time and your invaluable insights with us right here on the SABC News Desk. Always a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much.